Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're talking about oil. And let me tell you, the world of oil is going through a massive shakeup. The old playbook? It's being thrown out. The entire map of who holds the power is being redrawn right before our eyes.
So who really sets the price of oil? For the longest time, the answer felt pretty straightforward, right? You'd point to this one powerful group. But that's just not the whole picture anymore. The ground is literally shifting beneath our feet, and some new, very powerful players are stepping up to challenge the status quo.
All right, so to really get this, let's start with the traditional conductor of the oil market. The group that's been calling the shots for decades.
And that group is, of course, OPEC+. It's basically an alliance of 23 major oil exporting countries, think Saudi Arabia, Russia, and others, who get together and decide how much oil they're going to put out on the market. They've kind of acted like the central bank for oil, trying to manage prices by controlling the supply.
And their influence? Oh, it's huge. Just look at this number. Together, these countries control a whopping 40% of all the oil produced in the entire world. When you have that kind of market share, you can absolutely move the needle in the global economy.
So what does that power look like in practice? Well, here's their classic move. When the global economy slows down and people aren't using as much oil, they get together and they cut production. You can see it right here. They've agreed to pull millions of barrels per day off the market. The goal is simple: create a little scarcity to stop prices from crashing.
But here's where things get really interesting. That old strategy, well, it's starting to run into some serious headwinds. Because while OPEC Plus is still a huge deal, the whole energy map is being redrawn by a bunch of new players who are playing by their own rules.
Think about it like this. If OPEC Plus is hitting the brakes to slow things down, who's out there stepping on the gas? It's a great question, because while the old guard is trying to manage the market, these other forces are pumping up both supply and demand, making everything a whole lot more complicated.
Okay, so let's meet them. Who are these new players shaking up the old order?
First on our list, India. You might not realize it, but India has become the single biggest driver of oil demand growth in the world. They're the new top customer, and their appetite is only getting bigger.
And when I say bigger, I mean way bigger. To put it in perspective, India's economy is growing so fast that it's expected to make up 25%, a full quarter, of all the new demand for oil worldwide. That's not just big, that's becoming the new center of gravity for the entire market. So how do you fuel that kind of growth? Well, you get smart. India is playing the field, big time. They're not just relying on their old suppliers in the Middle East. As you can see, they're buying up huge amounts of discounted oil from Russia, basically shopping around for the best deal. It's a masterclass in energy diplomacy.
All right, so that's the demand side. Now let's flip over to supply and talk about a country that's become a real powerhouse producer, and importantly, one that is not part of the OPEC Plus club, Brazil.
Brazil is absolutely crushing it. Thanks to these incredible deep-water oil fields they've discovered, their production is just soaring. You can see the trend right on this chart, up and up and up. They are, without a doubt, the main reason there's new oil coming onto the market from outside of OPEC+. This provides a really important balance to what the big cartel is doing. This isn't just a small increase, it's a total game changer.
And finally, we have to talk about the wild card, the unpredictable one, and that's Iran. Now, Iran is actually a founding member of OPEC, but its situation today, well, it's complicated, which makes it a huge question mark for the market. Here's the paradox of Iran. On the one hand, they're under heavy international sanctions, which really limits how much oil they can sell. But on the other hand, they are sitting on the world's fourth largest proven oil reserves. We're talking about a massive amount of oil just waiting in the ground.
So what's the magic number everyone is watching? It's this: over 1 million barrels per day. If those sanctions were ever eased up, Iran could bring that much oil, or even more, back online, and fast. An extra 1 million barrels a day sounds like a lot, and it is. It would be enough to completely throw the global supply and demand balance out of whack, practically overnight.
Okay, so you've got the old conductor, OPEC+, trying to lead the orchestra. But now you have these new powerful soloists, India, Brazil, Iran, all playing their own tune. So what does this all mean? What does this new, much more complicated energy map mean for the world?
Well, the big takeaway is pretty clear. The days when one group could just dictate the price of oil, those days are over. The market is way more decentralized. We're seeing that huge demand from countries like India is now just as powerful as the supply decisions from OPEC+. And producers outside the club, like Brazil, are becoming absolutely critical.
And then you have wildcards like Iran that just add a whole new layer of unpredictability. It's a whole new ballgame.
So this really marks a fundamental shift, right? It means we're probably entering an era with a lot more volatility, more risks, but maybe more opportunities too. And it leaves us with this one big nagging question. In a world with so many different hands on the steering wheel, it's not about who is in charge anymore. The real question is anyone actually in control?